Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys tuning in for today's video. And guys, today we're going to have a talk about running a trolling motor and mistakes people make and sort of some things you can do to elevate your level of mastery with the trolling motor. Because guys, I'm telling you, if you can't run a trolling motor at a master's level, you're never going to be a really great bass fisherman. It's like so much of bass fishing, the success that you're going to have relies upon the manipulation of your trolling motor with your boat in order to put yourself with the right, presentation, the right casting angle, the stealth factor. There's a lot of variables that go along with bass fishing that trolling motors determine. So I'm going to give you guys a good little seminar, some do's and don'ts for running your trolling motor. And this is probably, if I could give you guys like the top 10 bass fishing tips that's going to help you catch more bass, I would definitely put this in the top 10 as far as things that will really, you'll really see a noticeable difference in your reproducible, sustainable results in bass fishing by following some of these tips I'm going to give you guys in today's video. And also guys, if you are looking for a new trolling motor, please check out all the trolling motors that Tackle Warehouse has got. They got a full line of trolling motors in stock there. I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description. If you guys would like to pick up a trolling motor, you can use that link. It's a good way to support the channel. And I'll tell you guys right off the bat up front, I don't have any trolling motor deal. I'm not sponsored by any trolling motor company whatsoever, but the trolling motor that I use and the one that I prefer more than anything else is that Minn Kota Ultrex. That is a simple trolling motor. I've never had any problems with it. It's built for stout. It's simple to use. That or the Fortrex, if you don't want to have the spot lock option on there. But those are really good trolling motors at a reasonable price. Probably my favorite of any trolling motor, any brand of trolling motor out there. So again, Tackle Warehouse link in the description if you want to check that out. Okay, first of all, let's cover everything you need to remember about trolling motor. The first thing I want to talk about is the trolling motor speed operation, as far as the, how fast you want to run a trolling motor. And it's not about going fast or slow. Don't think in terms of running your trolling motor fast and slow. Think about it in terms of figuring out the best pace or the speed for the technique that you're using. Now, the speed that you're running a trolling motor, it depends on, again, the type of cover that you're fishing. It depends on the current. It depends on the wind. It depends on your presentation that you're having. So, for example, if you're, meticulously pitching and flipping down a bank, you're going to have to dial it back a little bit. And if you're like fan casting a rattle trap out on a flat or something, you could probably pick up the pace a little bit, and everything else in between. Every single lure category has a pace that it fishes best at, and that pace it's a combination of the lure, the water temperature, and water color and everything with that, time of year, a lot of different variables that determine exactly how fast you want to run that trolling motor with the lure technique you're using. So one of the things that you have to determine is you have to figure out what is the best speed for you to fish at that will allow you to fish the most efficiently. In other words, you don't ever want to run a trolling motor too fast because you're going to lose your efficiency. You don't want to slop through an area. You want to make sure that your casting presentation and the casts that you make are exactly how many you need to make at the right speed of it. If you work that trolling motor too fast, you're going to pick up the pace a little bit. You're going to work too fast. You're going to get sloppy. You're going to miss cover. So you have to make sure that you factor that into consideration. And on the other end of the spectrum, you don't want to work too slow. You need to cover some water in order to find those active biting fish. So you don't want to, fish at a snail's pace if you're throwing a spinner bait, down an open bank or something. So every single lure has the best pace for it. Now, one of the things to consider with that is when you're trying to figure the pace that, you need to run that trolling motor, again, it's a combination of water temperature, water clarity, the species of bass you're fishing. Water temperature has a big impact on it as far as the speed to retrieve and the type of cover that you're fishing. All that stuff goes into factor with that. And I could make this video last for 5 hours talking about every one of those variables. But the main thing just to keep on the top of your mind is efficiency. Make sure that you're efficiently covering the water, getting in there, getting the best cast, not fishing too fast, not fishing too slow, finding the right pace for it. Another thing that's going to help you out is stop or try to avoid going your trolling motor on and off. As far as the button on there, the on and off button, try to avoid being on and off, on and off, on and off. One of the things that I have heard from divers is that it's not necessarily the trolling motor that spooks the bass if the trolling motor's running, but it's that on and off noise that the trolling motor makes, that zzz, zzz. So try to dial your trolling motor back to the speed where you can leave it on and not go too fast. So a lot of times this may be dialing it back a little bit slower, and the speed that you're fishing at, like on most dials it's labeled 1 through 10. Again, it has to do with the wind speed, the wind direction, and the current will determine how fast that you want to work with that. Another thing that I'll give you guys a tip and advice on a trolling motor is always try to work with the wind or with the current as long as you can. Now, if the wind is, say for example, you're trying to fish a brush pile on the end of a point, a lot of times you got to work into the wind to stay on that brush pile, or sometimes if you're fishing a current situation and if the current is moving so fast you're blowing past the cover, you may have to work into the current. But for the most part, try to fish if you can with the current and with the wind, because that's going to put you on the trolling motor even less. Occasionally you're just straightening yourself out a little bit, but the less that you can have that trolling motor on, the better. That's why it's always best, guys, to turn your electronics off when you're fishing, because less noise decibels coming from your boat. You know, it's a little bit more stealthy for the fish. But, you know, the less that you can use that trolling motor is the better. Another thing you have to remember is the stopping and starting of your boat with the trolling motor, because based upon the size of your boat, it takes more effort and more energy from that trolling motor to get it moving. And more importantly, it takes more energy and effort from that trolling motor to get your boat stopped. So when you're approaching a piece of cover, say you're working down a bank and there's a nice looking lay down tree in front of you, make sure that you come into that piece of cover at the right speed, or you're not coming into that piece of cover too fast where you have to turn the trolling motor in reverse and throw this big, you know, backwash into the cover. But make sure you're not coming in too slow where you're not in position for the cast. So one of the master's level things in trolling motor manipulation is knowing how to work your trolling motor at the right speed and then get off of the trolling motor where your boat glides into that piece of cover and puts you in position where you can make your presentation without being on the trolling motor. Now, this is something that takes a lot of practice, because every boat is different as far as the weight of the boat and how much wind it catches or doesn't catch. Again, the current and the wind, all that stuff comes to factor into it. But ideally, what you want to do is when you're coming up to that target that you're fishing, you do not want to be on the trolling motor. You want the boat to glide you into position where you can make that presentation. You're going to catch so many more fish with that. So that's just a few things with that. Another thing that's going to help you guys is get rid of that butt seat. Unless you're handicapped and you have some type of a handicap where you have got to have a seat to sit in, get rid of that seat and stand up. By standing up on the trolling motor, not only you can manipulate that trolling motor better, but you're going to be in better casting position. You can see more of what's in front of you in the water. You don't ever want to sit down again unless you're handicapped. Stand up all the time. It's going to be much more efficient with that. And like I said, the main thing, if I could give you just one overriding piece of advice, is just figure out the best pace to run that trolling motor. And if you have any doubt on it, always opt for the slower speed. You can always catch more fish going slower, but you cannot catch more fish going faster. One of the things you'll find out about in bass fishing is when you speed up anything, if you speed your retrieve up, if you speed your boat speed up, if you speed your trolling motor up, you tend to catch fewer and fewer fish. It's always better to err on the side of going a little too slow than a little bit too fast, and definitely will help you catch more fish. So anyway, guys, hope it helps you guys to catch some, get some fish in the boat. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys later.